Chicago Politics' special live DNC coverage is made possible by the generous financial support of Field Foundation of Illinois and generous Chicagoans like you.
Welcome to a live special edition of Chicago Politics. The Democratic National Convention is underway, and we are here to keep you informed with key insights and critical analysis from political, civic, and community leaders. I'm Hugo Balta, host of Chicago Politics.
And I'm Andrea Zopp, host of Chicago Newsroom 2.0. Let's kick off the hour with the Daily Brief. High-profile Democratic leaders from all across the nation have arrived in Chicago for this historic four-day event, during which Vice President Kamala Harris is expected to accept the nomination as the 2024 Democratic presidential candidate. After Joe Biden abruptly dropped his re-election bid, Harris earned the support of Democratic Party delegates and campaign donors, emerging as a strong contender against GOP presidential candidate Donald Trump. A recent Washington Post ABC News Ipsos poll found Harris is leading Trump 49% to 45% among registered voters.
Speaking of President Joe Biden, he will deliver the keynote address tonight, calling on delegates, attendees, and the country to support Harris and secure the Democratic Party for another 4 years in the White House. The president will be recognized for his storied political career and contributions to the nation.
As Vice President Harris prepares to accept the nomination on Thursday night, she isn't letting up on her efforts to make her case to the voters. Tomorrow, the VP will step away from the convention, traveling to Milwaukee to hold a rally at the very same venue that hosted last month's Republican National Convention. Hoping to present themselves as fully unified behind Harris and Walz, the DNC will highlight the themes each night of the convention, all tied to the overarching theme of For the People, For Our Future. Today's theme is For the People, with President Joe Biden delivering a speech highlighting the Democratic Party's accomplishments and leadership for the people under the Biden-Harris administration. President Biden and First Lady Dr. Jill Biden's messages will tout this administration's record against the GOP contender and former President Donald Trump's, who, they will say, could lead the nation into a darker, more extreme future.
On Tuesday, under the theme A Bold Vision for America, two of Chicago's giants, former President Barack Obama and former First Lady Michelle Obama, will deliver speeches with messages to push America forward. A ceremonial roll call is also taking place, a symbol of the Democratic Party's unity and support for Harris' nomination. On
Wednesday, Governor Tim Walz, Harris's pick for vice president, will be the keynote speaker for the night's theme, A Fight for Our Freedoms. The night will be centered on Democrats' plans to protect rights the Republican Party has taken away, including reproductive rights. Former President Bill Clinton, former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, and Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg also are speaking.
And closing the DNC on Thursday night, under the theme For Our Future, Vice President Kamala Harris will address DNC delegates and the nation after she accepts the presidential nomination. Harris will make a plea to voters and supporters to help her lead the nation with a brighter, more hopeful vision than the dangerous and extreme plans Donald Trump has for the nation, NBC reported. Our special live coverage of the DNC in Chicago continues on the other side of a short break.
Up next, Hugo sits front and center with 25th Ward Alderman Byron Cicho Lopez.
And later, political and civic leaders join Andy at the roundtable to discuss the presidential race that just might result in America's first Black and South Asian female president.
Stay with us. We're just getting started.
Don't miss Ashley Munson, her Chief of Staff Justin James, the band with no name, and a studio audience for the special live 1-hour edition of Munson Tonight on the final night of the Democratic National Convention. Delivering her unique and hilarious take on the DNC and the circus that is politics, Ashley will be joined by political insiders Michigan State Senator Sarah Anthony, Montgomery, Alabama Mayor Stephen Reed, rapper Rhymefest, Raz Kass, artist and rapper, and Phyllis Dickerson, CEO of the African American Mayors Association, each doing their level best to help Ashley make politics make sense. Join the conversation and laughter Thursday, August 22nd at 7 p.m. live on CAN TV Cable Channel 19 or stream on cantv.org or on the CAN TV Plus app. Hyperlocal news and public affairs. Experience the power of community television live.
Alderman Byron Cedro Lopez, 25th Ward, is with us front and center to discuss Vice President Harris' position on critical issues in this election, including the Hamas-Israel war and migration. Thank you very much for joining us, Alderman.
Thank you.
Now, earlier this year, you participated in a protest calling for the Democratic National Convention to be canceled and criticized President Joe Biden's handling of the war between Israel and Hamas. More than 150 groups nationwide have joined the coalition to march on the DNC, and you were part of it today. Tell us a little bit about participating in the protest, and tell us overall about the what's happening outside of the convention in the different people voicing their opinions.
Well, thank you, Hugo. And I think since then, what we've seen is a movement. President Biden had to drop out of the race as the popular support, given the genocide in Gaza, continuing the really lack of plan to address the situation at the border, immigration in general. And I think voters want solutions. Voters in our community believe that there are ways to help working people right now, people who are making barely ends meet and cannot continue to access business as usual. Today in the city of Chicago, we see a demonstration of democracy. Over 10,000 people took the streets demanding the end of the genocide, to stop arming Israel when innocent women, children, and men are being killed. And they are demanding solutions for immigration, solutions for global warming, global boiling at this point. Chicago just a few weeks ago was seeing unprecedented dozens of tornadoes in a matter of hours. We must take these challenges seriously, and it's only going to happen when we coordinate efforts, not only here at home, but also we need international coordination and solidarity.
Now, Vice President Kamala Harris, who's expected to be confirmed as the party's presidential candidate this week, recently condemned the loss of civilian life in an Israeli airstrike against a school building in Gaza. While several pro-Palestinian organizations have expressed hopeful tone about the new Harris-Walz ticket, other groups see little difference between the VP and President Biden on the issue. What do you think?
Well, we see that there is a change in rhetoric. However, in actions, we saw just a few days ago another shipment of $20 billion going to Israel again, and the loss of life in Gaza, and the genocide that has already cost us 40,000 people, innocent civilians and men being killed. So what people want in our city, and I think across the country, is a real change in policy. We need to make sure that we focus on the issues at home, that those billions of dollars are spent to create housing, to create Medicare for all, to make sure that we address the issue of the environment. And what we see is a change in rhetoric, but in action, we still don't have a ceasefire. We still have an escalation of conflict in the region, which is dangerous, not only for our country, but across the globe. We see more displacement, more genocides that are displacing hundreds of thousands of people. Mm-hmm. So what we see today is an opportunity, and that's what we see, and that's what is important to mobilize. I'm proud of the city of Chicago, people across the country who came, mobilized peacefully, 10,000 demonstrators demanding not only a change in rhetoric, but change in foreign policy, and changes here at home when there's a need of investment of government to the real issues, the issue of poverty, the issue of inequality, racism, sexism. We saw that in a party like the Republican Party, a party that is full of fascist narratives that are only going to be challenged with a real plan for working people.
Now let me talk to you a little bit about immigration. In 2021, Harris was tasked with addressing the root causes of migration to the U.S. from Northern Triangle countries of Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras. Recently, she has touted her time as Attorney General of a border state, saying she went after the transnational gangs, the drug cartels, and human traffickers. In regards, if she becomes president of the United States, how do you feel she will address the issues of migration, especially as we've seen busloads and busloads of migrants coming from Texas to sanctuary cities like Chicago?
Well, immigration has been one of those issues that has not been addressed by neither party. Unfortunately, the Democratic Party has adopted very anti-immigrant, xenophobic narratives. We got to remember that President Biden, in his state of address, used one example of a crime to criminalize millions of people, millions of immigrants. So what we need for Vice President Harris is actually to look at the data and look at the evidence. What we've seen is operations like Operation Condor in Latin America destabilizing governments, actually arming and empowering dictators. In Honduras, we just saw one of the government officials at the highest level of government involved in issues of trafficking, involved in criminal activity. We need to make sure that we look at those policies. We need to make sure that we allowed Latin American countries to address their own issues. And I like the posture that countries like Brazil, Colombia, Mexico are taking to make sure that we support democracies, that we help with humanitarian help and not with more military budgets that are destabilizing the region. And again, the evidence does not suggest that we are addressing the root cause. It's quite the opposite. We are displacing more and more people. The situation at the border is unsustainable, and I do think there are solutions. The Mexican government has proposed a very detailed plan that I think Vice President Harris must certainly take on.
Before I let you go, unable to attract a quorum, Mayor Brandon Johnson abandoned plans to interrupt the Chicago City Council's summer recess to install you as zoning committee chair. Some critics have said that was a sign that you don't have a lot of support in the city council. You have said there will be a block of the new Ridgerlocks 29 that opposes anything and everything that we try to do. That minority of the council will continue with the tactics of the past. Can you explain a little bit about what you mentioned in regards to the new Ridgerlock 29 and in regards to what happened and your confidence in being named?
Mm-hmm. Well, what we see is a small minority of the council. And when I refer to the Verdoliak 29, that's a majority bloc at the time in the 80s that blocked every effort of Mayor Washington to have his own leadership team. What we've seen is the very same thing. A block of council members that are using draconian ideological reasons to block anything that the mayor does with the premise of transparency and with the premise of inclusion. Every mayor in the city of Chicago has been given the courtesy to establish their own leadership team. My track record as an economist, as someone who represents working people, is clear. I don't see any of my colleagues had issues with my predecessor, for instance, someone with a track record of exchanging zoning decisions for Viagra pills. But all of a sudden, they seem to have issues with someone who speaks clearly about the need for development to include every single neighborhood in the city of Chicago. And again, I think that across the city there is a need for change. And I think in city council, the majority of my council members, my colleagues understand that we need to allow the mayor to have a leadership team that represents the best interests of the city and a vision for change that the city needs urgently.
Alderman Cito Lopez, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate your insights.
Thank you.
When we come back, we're going to continue our special coverage of the DNC in Chicago. A roundtable featuring Wallace Gator Bradley, Dominica McBride, Mike Nellis, and Stevie Valles with Andy Zopp. Stay with us.
Inviting you to tune in to Democracy Now! Special. We'll be broadcasting live from CAN TV in Chicago each day throughout the week of the convention from 7 to 9 each weekday morning. Then tune into CAN TV's special live editions of Chicago Politics throughout the DNC with hosts Hugo Balta and Andy Zopp nightly from 7 to 8. Chicago Politics will feature critical analysis and key insights from local and national political, civic, and community leaders. You can catch Democracy Now! And join the Chicago Politics conversation live on CAN TV Channel 19, stream on cantv.org, or on the CAN TV Plus app. The entire Democracy Now! Team is so excited to join CAN TV for this week-long collaboration. Experience the power of community television.
I'm Darius Hillman, inviting you to join me for the series premiere of Chicago Noir, the news magazine that highlights and showcases the African American experience in the Windy City. Tune in each month on CAN-TV Cable Channel 19 or stream live on cantv.org or on the CAN-TV Plus app. Elevated conversation and storytelling. Experience the power of community television.
I'm Francia Garcia Hernandez. On the premiere episode of Presente, the Venezuelan sisters behind Klein's Bakery in Lakeview share their journey of building an anchor business. Join us on Thursday, September 12th at 7 p.m. via Channel 19, streaming on cantv.org and the CAN-TV Plus app. Elevated conversation and storytelling. Experience the power of community television.
President Joe Biden will address Democratic Party leaders and supporters tonight. In tonight's roundtable segment, we'll discuss the Harris-Walz ticket and how it has turned this year's Democratic National Convention into one of the hottest tickets around, while upending a presidential campaign that only weeks ago was looking like Trump's to lose. Joining me to discuss it all, our political consultant and the host of the Bradley Report, Dr. Wallace Gator Bradley, the CEO of Become, Center for Community Engagement and Social Change, Dominica McBride, political pundit and CEO of Authentic, Mike Nellis, and the CEO of Chicago Voice, Steve Valles. Welcome, one and all. Let's jump right in. So it's been impressive, pretty incredible, 6 weeks, guys?
Yes,
Who would have,
yes.
mid-June, who here would have predicted this is where we would be right now?
Totally
Anybody?
unpredictable.
Anybody see this coming?
No.
No. So what happened? How did we get here? I'd love to hear everybody's perspective on
I like
kind of
to-
what occurred. Gator, you start.
I think everyone was hearing what the people had to say. And what the people had to say was that it was two old guys there, and they wanted something new. The young adults felt like they needed someone that they can get off into and have hope that there may be a chance. They see this election where leadership within the Democratic Party, they were friends of Joe Biden's, from Pelosi to Claiborne to whomever. And everybody was waiting on Joe. So Joe said, you don't have to wait no more. Everybody found out what was happening while they was in church.
Yeah, it was on a Sunday, right? It was on a Sunday. Anybody else?
Yeah, I mean, this is just crazy. What a year this has been. I mean, I think it's cool that it's in Chicago. Like, we get to see the most historic election in my lifetime up close and personal. So, I mean, I think Gator had a point. Mm-hmm. Like, people want to see something different from what things have always been. Obviously, Biden had to drop out. Like you mentioned in your opening statements, like, it was Trump's election to lose at that point. And now I think this is like a Hail Mary pass from the Democratic Party that's a pretty good one, honestly. Like, I'm pretty excited.
Maybe a little better than a full Hail Mary.
I mean, it's a Hail Mary, but the receiver's wide open.
I got you. Anybody else?
I think we'll call it like a Statue of Liberty play.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we're here because, like, one, we've had 40 years of news in the last 40 days.
Right.
So we should probably acknowledge that. Right?
Right.
I think I've got way more gray hairs than I had a month and a half ago.
It's a great way to put it.
Yeah, but we're here because Joe Biden made a very patriotic decision, right?
Yeah.
Recognized the situation that he was in and that the country was in, and the reality of just how dangerous a Trump presidency would be, and gave way for, I think, an opportunity to look at the future, right? And the future looks a lot more like Kamala Harris than it does Donald Trump.
Yeah. Dominica?
Yeah, you just have this like emotional roller coaster of so many people, right? And like the positive end and the negative end, from some of us just experiencing a lot of fear, going into, even before Biden made his decision. Some of people gaining momentum, right? And then now, just for it to change so drastically, for a lot of people to like reignite hope that they had lost for a long time, and for some people to get scared that weren't scared before.
Yeah,
it's an interesting time emotionally.
Yeah, I think that's such a great point. I think in leading up into before President Biden stepped out, I think people were really starting to be afraid,
Right.
really, and I think that fear, once relieved, kind of has really propelled some of this energy. I don't know, I also think how do we think about how Vice President Harris and her team initially responded? I think that they moved pretty quickly once President Biden made his announcement. I don't know, anybody impressed by that?
The 5 Ps, proper planning prevents poor performance. Vice President Kamala Harris was a part of the ticket. She was a part of the team. So she knew what had to be done if the responsibility was to come to her. If Biden was to drop out or get ill or whatever. She was a loyal vice president and an actionable vice president. We saw that with the release of all those individuals. And a lot of people didn't realize that she was on talking with different governments to help free someone. But like the brother here was saying, everybody was like, whoa, wow, and let's go.
Yeah.
I didn't know if I was gonna be, even my son, they didn't know they was gonna be in. They didn't feel like, hey, why should we get in?
But I felt like, in part, I mean, she's always been incredibly competent,
Right.
but quiet as a vice president,
Right.
as vice presidents often are, and she has been stepping up previously, particularly on Project 2025 and on reproductive rights.
Yes.
But it was like he said, "I'm out. I endorse her," and she was like, "I'm in."
Yep.
Yeah.
It was, and
It's almost
her
like it was a plan.
right.
If you think this was planned, I don't know.
That's what everybody says. We plan. I don't know. I don't think, especially Democrats. I don't think we plan that well. I don't know. Or they plan that well.
I mean, to quote the media, Democrats were straight up in disarray there for
Okay.
good reason, right? But I think when Joe Biden made his decision, the Harris operation was so efficient and effective in terms of lining up the whole party. And what they've done is they've created a situation where people are as excited as they were when Barack Obama was the nominee in 2008. A moment where the energy and enthusiasm for the candidacy outmatches the infrastructure of the campaign. That's why you have all these calls at night of people raising, millions of dollars for Kamala Harris, black men for Kamala Harris, white women for Kamala Harris, white dudes for Kamala Harris, right? Which I was an organizer of. And it's just an incredible amount of enthusiasm that we haven't seen in 20 years.
Right, but I do think they moved very quickly to capitalize on it, right? Yeah. One thing I noted, did you, the couple days after when they first announced that President Biden was endorsing her, every single person, what's the phrase that people used about her in relation to Donald Trump that every single person used that very first week? Do you remember?
You're talking about weird?
No, that's Walsh. No, they said she's a prosecutor. She'll be the best person. She said she'll be the best person to prosecute Donald Trump.
Right.
Every single person who talked about Kamala Harris said that. Everybody. I heard Senator or Representative Clyburn say it, but then I heard some representative from Alaska who was talking about it say it. I don't know how they got those talking points out, but they did good. So I think that response has been very helpful. But here's the question, I think, as we come into the convention, I'd be interested to get your thoughts on. So first of all, can the party keep this energy up? What has to happen during this convention? Her team's done a good job up getting into the convention. What has to happen during this convention to come out of this strong? What do you think the party needs to do to help deliver for her?
The party needs a unified vision, because we're pretty clear on what people don't want, right? It's been very clear over and over again saying we don't want to go back, we don't want this, we don't want that, we want to reverse this, we want to reverse that. But then what do we want as a unified vision that is going to cut across racial lines, socio-political lines, socioeconomic lines? So we really need that aspiring, inspiring, compassionate vision that everybody can really buy into, and some concrete steps like a plan.
Right. Yeah, like clarity on some of the pressing issues that we know are happening in the world today. I mean, there's thousands and thousands of people protesting on the convention right now because of what's happening in Gaza. And so like very clear articulations from her about what her plan is and what her policy stance is going to be, I think would be really helpful to start to galvanize some of these folks who feel unheard in what should be a very exciting moment for everyone.
I think that. Oh, good.
But no way.
I think that's right. But one thing I'll add to it is that they need to do a good job of leading with authenticity and empathy in this election. Like the right wing and Trump and MAGA world are going to throw everything and the kitchen sink at Kamala Harris. They're out there talking about her going to a colored sorority and questioning her identity and talking about her not having any biological children. Like that stuff is gross and it's creepy, but it can stick if people don't trust and know the candidate. So if this week they do a great job of introducing Kamala Harris, introducing Tim Walz to the American people, no matter what the policy proposals are, and they're important, don't get me wrong, if people trust her, if they believe that when the chips are down and she's got to make a tough decision, she's going to make the right decision for them, we're going to win this election.
You know, from seeing the lineup, like today, you got former presidents, former first ladies, given the history and the narrative of introduction of who she is as we know, not me, but as they know who she is. The fact that, like the brother was saying about the Gaza piece, when she met with Netanyahu when he came to speak before the House and the Senate, and the president had his meeting with Netanyahu, and then Netanyahu met with Trump. And one of the things that the vice president let it be known to address the concerns about the Gaza piece, she let it be known that, hey, Hamas was wrong, but the slaughter of innocent people is wrong too. You follow what I'm saying? And she said she was not going to be quiet about it. And the people don't want her to be quiet. We want to know what's happening. Why should we keep sending bombs over there when they give the impression like America is in support of the slaughter of innocent people? And one of the things that Kamala is doing, and I hope she come in and say, okay, this is me. And I believe we need to deal with the issues. The immigration piece.
Yeah, I agree. But I think, it's what, how many more days we have? Like 80 days?
80 days.
And I heard the other day, it's like 3 weeks before they start voting in Pennsylvania, right? Something cray-cray. So we don't have a lot, a cray-cray, you're like, what? So, we don't have a lot of time. So I think, it's not like we're going to fix Gaza in those 3 weeks, right? Or she's going to come up. So I think most important is she's got to frame herself for people, because the truth is she was a little bit of a caricature, right? For people, a lot of people. She's the vice president. And there's a lot more, as we've already seen, there's a lot more to her. So I hope that they tell that story a little bit, and to your piece, come with some unifying trend. So, there's going to be a debate coming up, though, in a couple weeks, right? On September 10th. So look at your crystal balls. What do we think the headline's going to be on September, on the day after the debate? How we think that's going to go?
Was politically prosecuted.
I was going to say the case is closed.
Right.
The case is closed. I like that one.
I would say Trump breaks the record for most lies told in a single day.
He's already done that.
A record that he set.
He'll have to break he'll break his own record, right? He'll break his own record. Yeah. I think he's really, because he is so, as you said, so combative and mean, but he's dealing with a black woman in America, right?
A very smart,
who's been in politics for a long time, right? I always say, like, there's really not much you can say to her that has not been said to her by somebody she has had to deal with, right? And and so I think he's just not prepared to handle that. So, but I hope he comes full Trump. Because I think just like the
National Association of Black Journalists.
I'm like, come on, because I think I want people to see her, but the more people who see him, and that's why I love JD Vance running around, because I want people to see their true vision for the country, so they can really see what they're picking between. So anyway, amazingly, we have used up all of our time talking about this incredibly important election and how exciting it is and this historic moment. So I want to thank all of you for being here. I really appreciate it, and for your support and for your insights. And on the other side of this break, Hugo sits front and center with Democratic State Senator Mike Simmons from the 7th District. Chicago Politics Live DNC coverage continues. Stay with us.
Chicago. The community is best known for its rich culture, tight-knit spirit, and delicious cuisine. I'm Hugo Balta. On the next episode of Sazón de Illinois, we'll sample the stories, culture, and cuisine of one of the most beloved restaurants that give this neighborhood its flavor.
Don't miss Ashley Munson, her chief of staff, Justin James, the band with no name, and a studio audience for the special live 1-hour edition of Munson Tonight on the final night of the Democratic National Convention. Delivering her unique and hilarious take on the DNC and the circus that is politics, Ashley will be joined by political insiders Michigan State Senator Sarah Anthony, Montgomery, Alabama Mayor Stephen Reed, rapper Rhymefest, Ras Kass, artist and rapper, and Phyllis Dickerson, CEO of the African American Mayors Association, each doing their level best to help Ashley make politics make sense. Join the conversation and laughter Thursday, August 22nd at 7 p.m. live on CAN-TV cable. After Thursday, August 22nd at 7 p.m. live on CAN-TV cable channel 19 or stream on cantv.org or on the CAN-TV Plus app. Hyperlocal news and public affairs. Experience the power of community television live.
Democratic State Senator Mike Simmons from the 7th District is with us front and center to discuss how the next president could improve health, economy, and transportation infrastructure in our region. Thank you very much for joining us, Senator.
Thank you.
LGBTQ Plus Victory Institute works to achieve and sustain equality through leadership, development, training, research, and convenings. You're a member of the Honorary Host Committee for Victory at the DNC. Please tell us a little bit about this initiative.
Yeah. Well, first, thank you so much for having me back onto this show. It's always a pleasure to be here. I have so much appreciation for CAN-TV and public television and media writ large. For your viewers who maybe have not met me yet, my name is Mike Simmons. I serve as a state senator for the 7th District, which covers the far north side of Chicago. So if you live in Rogers Park, Edgewater, Uptown, Lincoln Square, North Center, West Ridge, Andersonville, Ravenswood, Arcadia Terrace, Butler, and Woods, you're likely in my district. And I'm the first openly LGBTQ person elected to the Illinois Senate and the only out member to be serving. So in terms of the question about the Victory Fund and the Victory Institute, this is an organization that works really hard to raise money and position LGBTQ candidates to be candidates for office and serve in public office, just as I have. And I am really excited to be co-hosting a party tomorrow. Actually, the Victory will be hosting in conjunction with the Democratic National Convention. So, we want to really get LGBTQ plus people excited about this election. And really they are. I mean, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz have spoken to so many issues that are high stakes in the LGBTQ community, such as banning book bans once and for all, making sure that our school classrooms are open and inclusive for all, and particularly for trans youth.
Now, among your goals for your constituents, and as you mentioned in Rogers Park, Edgewater, Uptown, and Ravenswood, has been tackling health and economic disparities. Tell us about your work in this space so far and what you need from the next president, whether it's Vice President Harris or former President Trump.
Yeah, so the thing that I've really focused on in the 3 years that I've been in the Illinois Senate is really pushing really hard towards universal health care. So I've passed more than half a dozen bills that do everything from removing co-pays for people who need access to life-saving disease screenings to setting up a new office at the state of Illinois that will identify the reasons why we have disparate outcomes in morbidity and early deaths for people of color, and then actually tackle those issues. What I'm excited about is that Kamala Harris is talking about these issues. It's clear that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz actually understand how these issues of medical bills, right? I passed a bill this session that puts together a medical amnesty program for Illinoisans so that 340,000 people who are ensnared in medical debt can have that boot removed from their necks. It's exciting to see two people running for federal office and who may be in the White House who understand that issue and will prioritize it. In terms of economic issues, that's my other big healthcare and economic disparities are two big issues for me. My very first bill I introduced in the Illinois Senate when I took the oath of office would establish a child tax credit. And it took 3 years of hard work on that and coalition building and just really pushing and being stubborn and persistent. And we finally got it passed. So literally just 2 months ago, Illinois became the 15th state in the country to enact a child tax credit. And Kamala Harris is already talking about, should she be elected president, how we can expand the child tax credit that we had just a few years ago temporarily during the pandemic. And every American family, I feel like, understood the benefit of the child tax credit. 46% of children were lifted out of poverty for a brief period. Why not make policies like that permanent? Just like we just did in Illinois with my bill, in which I'm certain that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz will do. You know, Tim Walz, as governor of Minnesota, enacted the most ambitious child tax credit that we've seen to date. That has lifted over a third of kids in his state out of poverty. So this is a big opportunity, and that's why I'm personally really excited about this election.
Congratulations on that very important work.
Thank you.
Recently, you joined transportation, planning, environmental advocates, as well as state and local elected officials to protest plans to redesign DuSable Lakeshore Drive. Tell us about prioritizing, as you've said, transit safety and our city's connection to the lakefront, not a highway.
Yeah, you know, it was such a proud moment for me to stand with people in my district who really care about having free, open access to Lake Michigan. You know, it's something that people take for granted. I grew up in Chicago, and one of the things that I've always appreciated is that I can go right over Lakeshore Drive to the beach, and for 18 miles, every Chicagoan from the south to the north side can sit on the water and can enjoy the beaches and the park spaces that abuts the beaches in a way that people in nowhere else in the country can take advantage of. And so right now there's a debate going on in our communities around this iconic DuSable Lakeshore Drive that every Chicagoan knows about. Should it be a highway where people have to risk their lives to cross to get to the beach, where people's speed is 70, 80 miles an hour, which creates an issue of safety and traffic violence and deaths for so many people? Or do we want DuSable Lakeshore Drive to continue to be an iconic boulevard that's safer for motorists, that's safer for those that have to rely on public transit like I do? You know, as a state senator, I take the buses and trains everywhere I go. I take the Amtrak back and forth 300 miles to the state capitol to legislate for my district. And there are other people that want to be able to rely on public transit too. And so we're pushing the state and the city right now to have dedicated lanes for express buses, for the 6 Jeffrey on the south side, Jackson Express, for the 147 Outer Drive up north, the buses that all Chicagoans have know about and have had to take. And we want to also make sure that our DuSable Lakeshore Drive is safe for cyclists. I cycle, I bike 50 to 75 miles a week is how I stay in shape. And, you know, I want us to be able to be on a bike and get to and from the lakefront and not feel like we're going to get killed. There's so many Chicagoans that would bike if they felt safer on our streets. So this issue is really taken on a heightened significance.
Leading by example. Before I let you go, earlier this year, U.S. Transportation Secretary Peter Buttigieg announced awards for more than $50 million in grants safe, efficient transportation systems across the country. Do you think the Biden-Harris administration has done enough to provide resources for a variety of transportation technology and projects?
Unequivocally, yes. I mean, Pete Buttigieg is a transportation person. President Biden has been a transportation president. We've never seen this level of investment in my lifetime. A safe infrastructure, road improvements for cyclists and for pedestrians, for people who are living with disabilities. We've never seen this level of grants that have been made available for the procurement of electric buses so that we can bring down our emissions and save our planet. And that has been an unprecedented opportunity for all of our transit agencies, such as the CTA, the Metro, the PACE, RTA, Amtrak, and all of the transit systems that we rely on here in Illinois. I've literally been pushing our transit agencies in a friendly way to take advantage of that federal money so that we can make our buses and trains ready for our people to ride them in the 21st century, so they can be clean, so they can move quickly, and that we can continue to enjoy our public transit.
State Senator Mike Simmons, we've run out of time, but I really appreciate you joining us in the special coverage of Chicago politics, DNC.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. When we return, more from our live coverage of Chicago politics in the DNC. Ruth Chicago's Chicote Williams leads a conversation for the people with LGBTQ+ youth on the issues that matter most to their community. Chicago Politics live special DNC coverage continues after the break. Stay with us.
Hi, I'm Bianca Cotton. On the premiere episode of Behind the Confident Smile, I'll be conversing with Jennifer Bush about her journey of overcoming obesity.
Stepping on my scale and getting an error, that was a shock.
Join the conversation Monday, September 9th at 7 p.m. on CAN-TV Cable Channel 19 and streaming on cantv.org and CAN-TV Plus app. Experience the power of community television.
On the next edition of The Compassionate Competitor, I'll sit in conversation with former University of Illinois football player turned coach, Chris James.
It might seem like you're down, but all you gotta do is keep battling.
Join the conversation on CAN-TV Cable Channel 19 or stream live on cantv.org or on the new CAN-TV Plus app. Elevated conversation and storytelling. Experience the power of community television.
I'm Ricky Watson, and I'm inviting you to join me for the series premiere of the new CAN-TV original program, Critical Conversations. Each month, I'll share space with special guests who, like you and me, are on their journey of self-discovery and deeper understanding. Join the conversation on CAN-TV, Cable Channel 19, or stream live on cantv.org or on the CAN-TV Plus app. Elevated conversation and storytelling. Experience the power of community television.
Tonight's For the People segment features a conversation with this incredible group of LGBTQ plus youth, moderated by One Roof Chicago's Chicote Williams. Chi, I'm turning it over to you. You guys go have at it.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Chicote Williams, she, her, hers. And today we'll be speaking with, well, I'll let you all introduce yourselves.
My name is Alais Alzaga. I'm 20 years old. My pronouns are she, her.
My name is Destiny English. I'm 20 years old and my pronouns are she, her, hers.
Thank you both for being here today. I guess we can dive right into it. First of all, what are your thoughts on the major presidential nominees? And feel free to say more.
I feel really optimistic now that Kamala is the current Democratic nominee. I am really looking forward to voting for her because I feel like she can really bring the people together, and I think she really wants to make change. The same cannot be said for the convicted felon, Donald Trump.
Destiny?
I definitely do want to say I am leaning very much everything towards Kamala Harris. I think she's a good role model and she's doing what she needs to do to help my community, and I know that other presidential candidates that have already ran in the past, we've seen what he could do and the type of person he is and the things he did. And honestly, I do not want a person with 38 felonies running my country that I live in.
I hear you. And this is a great segue to the next question. What are 3 qualities that are most important to you in a potential president?
I feel humility is vital because you have to be down to earth and not feel like you're above everybody else in order to help everybody. Especially when you're in such an important position, it's really important that you have an idea where people are coming from. I think that compassion is also really important because you have to care for people. You know, you're in a position where you get to help people, or you can pass bills that can hurt people. So I think it's important to care about how that affects others. And I think honesty, which is important for trust, which is low right now. I think that it's important to be honest about, you know, what your intentions are, and even if you have things in your past, being honest about that will go so much farther than just straight up lying.
And Destiny, what are 3 qualities that you think are important in an upcoming president?
I know that I want a president who is a leader. That's very important to me. With America's past, we've seen people come into office and come out and not really make changes for the people, for the youth, for the people in the LGBT, the Cheat Plus community. All the minorities in general in America are struggling right now, and I think it's important that we have a person in office who will help everyone, not just a person who's only looking out for their own people, more say a person for other people.
And speaking of looking out for only their own, have you heard of Project 2025, and what are your thoughts on it?
I have heard of Project 2025, and I think that that is one of the most terrifying documents I've ever read. I think that it will be detrimental to everybody, especially women, people of color, LGBTQ people, youth. And I mean, it slashes funding for all kinds of government properties like the Veterans Affairs. Like, it's gonna affect our veterans. It's gonna affect people who are low income and who need that assistance. And, you know, I think that it's really scary to see how that's going to affect everybody realistically and really limits our democracy.
Thank you. And Destiny, have you heard of and what are your thoughts on Project 2025?
I do have a lot of thoughts about Project 2025. Honestly, overall, it is a little bit scary when you're reading it and you're like, wow, this looks like a dictatorship. Like, you want all of this power. And especially coming from a man of that stature asking for this power, knowing what he's already done to the communities. And it seems like he doesn't care about the effects that it has on other people that, like I said, are more so not white. What about the other people? It's a whole, America used to be a stirring pot. Everybody wants to come to America so everybody can be included, everybody can feel like they belong here, and you want to put somebody in office with all these lists and rules who are taking away things from me as a woman. Like, that's very important to me, a lot of the things that he listed, because I am a woman, I am a Black woman, and I am part of the LGBT community, and all the things in Project 25 are threatening that. And it's not just, it's threatening my family, it affects my family, it affects other families, it affects the immigrants, it affects the people who don't have a voice, and he's taking that voice away from them, even with most of the things that are listed. Even with healthcare, like, what are we gonna do without healthcare? As a Black woman, a lot of Black women, it's a lot of, we already have this stigma with hospitals and even wanting to reach out for help from the government due to like what we've gone through in the past. It's very harmful. Project 2025, I can't see it being a good thing for everyone in America. I can only see it catering to the rich, catering to not lower, like it's not catering to lower income people. It's not catering to the people. Everyone matters, and Project 2025, it doesn't look like everyone matters.
Thank you. And we're going to have to wrap up soon, but before we do, I want to ask you both, how do you plan to protect your community if the prospective candidate plans to endanger it?
I think that creating a safe space for people who are in immediate danger, such as people of color and women and LGBTQ people, having plans in case evacuation is needed, and also making sure that we can bring our resources together, our skills, our talents, our resources, so that way we can really uplift each other and come together.
Thank you. And Destiny?
I definitely would love to make a good change in my community if the worst happens. More so say, we've gone through a lot. We've made it through a lot. My generation is powerful. My generation is strong. We will overcome all of that. The way we've come together for like all the communities, we all come together. Us minorities, we stick together whether or not we want. Even so, we have our own differences. At the end of the day, we know we need what we need as a community, and we need help for each other. We can't let someone come in office and take away the things that we need to live and survive. We already struggle as enough. Why make it harder for us? So definitely just creating spaces more so where everyone feels comfortable.
Thank you, Destiny. I think we're going to have to wrap it up, but I love that you were on a roll. I'd like to thank you both. Alais, Destiny, thank you for being here today. And back to you, Hugo.
Great conversation. Thanks, Chi and panelists. On the other side of the break, Ricky Watson has the last word. Stay with us.
I'm Amy Goodman, host of Democracy Now!, inviting you to tune in to Democracy Now!'s special coverage of the Democratic National Convention. We'll be broadcasting live from CAN TV in Chicago each day throughout the week of the convention from 7 to 9 each weekday morning. Then tune into CAN TV's special live editions of Chicago Politics throughout the DNC with hosts Hugo Balta and Andy Zopp nightly from 7 to 8. Chicago Politics will feature critical analysis and key insights from local and national political, civic, and community leaders. You can catch Democracy Now! And join the Chicago Politics conversation live on CAN TV Channel 19, stream on cantv.org, or on the CAN TV Plus app. The entire Democracy Now! Team is so excited to join CAN TV for this week-long collaboration. Experience the power of community television.
With the last word tonight, we're joined by the host of the new CAN TV original program called Critical Conversations, Ricky Watson. Ricky, the floor is yours.
Hello. As a nation, we are in a crossover season, standing at the edge of uncharted waters. The currents of change are strong, and the path ahead is definitely uncertain. Yet, while some may see only the uncertainty before us, we see something far greater. An opportunity to prove that the light of faith and love in our hearts will never be overpowered by the darkness of fear and division. Faith in this season is like a beacon of hope, shining brightly as we navigate these unknown waters. Hebrews 11:1 reminds us, now faith is the confidence in what we hope for, an assurance about what we do not see. It is this faith that lights our way, guiding us toward a bright future, even when the horizon seems distant and unclear. But faith alone is not enough. As we journey together, we are also carried by hope, the hope that God is leading us to a place of promise, a land of greater unity, peace, and prosperity. Romans speaks to this hope. May the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace as you trust in him, so that you may overflow with hope by the power of the Holy Spirit. This hope propels us forward, giving us the courage to press on even when the waves rise and the winds howl. And love, the greatest of all, is what binds us together in this journey. 1 Corinthians tells us, and now these three remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love. It is love that strengthens our bonds and reaches across divides, heals our wounds, and builds bridges. It is love that reflects the very heart of God, ensuring that as we cross over, we do so not as individuals, but as united people, committed to one another and the common good. As we cross over to the other side, let us also commit to critical conversations and honest self-reflection. For it is through these that we will protect our harmonic agreement about the future. It is through these that we will ensure that our journey is not just a crossing over, but a transformation into a nation more aligned with God's vision, more united in purpose, and more steadfast in our faith. Thank you.
Thank you, Ricky, and all of our guests for sharing your important insights and perspectives. And thank you, Chicago and beyond, for tuning in to our special live DNC coverage.
The conversation continued tomorrow when Senate Majority Leader, Kimberly Lightford, Alderman Gilbert Villegas, and State Rep Marcus Evans join Hugo front and center.
Librarian and Time 100 honoree Tracy D. Hall and the president of the Field Foundation, Daniel Ash, join Andy at the roundtable to unpack the dystopian plan to dismantle democracy known as Project 2025.
We'll also speak with an amazing group of Black women leaders and hear an important perspective from Chicago Department of Public Health Medical Director, Dr. Geraldine Luna.
Join us tomorrow at 7 p.m. on CAN TV, cable channel 19, or stream live on cantv.org or the CAN TV Plus app.
Until then, be well and well informed. Good night.